Spring college season is here and the warm weather is on its way. That means it's reversible season. Breakmark is giving away free reversibles for teams that order a bundle. With prices starting at just $75, it's the best way to have your team looking game ready this spring. And reorders get a 20% discount. Get started today at breakmark.com.
Welcome to Eurozone, the podcast about European Ultimate. I'm Ravi Vasudevan, joined here not only by my friend Liam Grant, but also new European editor of Ultimate. I've actually been doing it for pretty much over a year now, I think. Sean Colfer. And we're going to start things off by talking a bit of Eurozone news. Sean is actually going to be taking over the podcast this year, hosting it, doing things a little bit differently. Liam and I might bounce back in here and there, but Liam's quite busy. I'm busy doing some stuff. We'll talk about that later, I'm sure. But Sean, welcome. And how you feeling about taking the reins of this show?
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's somewhat daunting stepping into these shoes, but looking forward to it. I'm sure it will be a fun year. There's lots to look forward to. EUC, as Liam knows well, all the usual club stuff. We've got 24s happening in Nottingham, in my backyard as well. So yeah, it's going to be fun. So looking forward to it.
And for those worried about having like a UK only podcast about the Eurozone, you do have an Irish passport, right? You are not just okay. That was very important to run this podcast.
Yeah, link to the EU. Don't worry about that.
I think it's an outrage. An outrage. This is an outrage. I've just heard about this now. Nobody told me. What? The British are taking over the Eurozone. The irony is fantastic. That's one thing we can at least celebrate.
Well, there's a new king in town, so that means the king is dead.
In fairness, pretty small shoes to fill, I think. That's how I describe it. As long as you have poor recording quality and a sporadic culture in how you record things, I think you're going to do just fine, Sean.
I'll do my best.
So Liam, how you been, man? It's been haven't done this podcast in a while. A bit has happened in European Frisbee. Got a lot to talk about. But before we get there, what you been up to?
Organizing Frisbee stuff has been a big part of my life. Obviously, I'm a local councillor, politician in Ireland. I've been very busy. Definitely my busiest 4 months last while. Whatever happened, there's kind of like grants or money funding going around. You have to put in your local hat for and try and get money for your areas, and it's been a lot of incidents and things. I've just been really busy with that side of my life and with family and other businessy stuff. It's been really good, productive time. I was just at a wedding last Thursday. One of my best friends got COVID from the wedding. That's still a thing, kind of retro getting COVID at a wedding. It was my first time actually, I think, getting COVID. I would say I probably have had it before, but kind of like for certainty actually getting it. So I felt kind of left out before that I'd never had wedding COVID. So yeah, this is why I'm probably on the podcast, because I'm quite restricted in my movements right now. That getting me on a microphone was relatively easy. I feel kind of grand. I mostly just had headaches, but so it was probably good timing for me in that one to get a lot of stuff done online. So here I am. How are you, Ravi?
So you didn't get COVID at World Masters last year like everybody else did at your tournament that you were hosting?
Yeah, I'll let this little sneak peek information that I probably shouldn't divulge. Me and Barry made a promise that if we wouldn't test for COVID as the tournament directors. Made a secret pact, which I'm now revealing now, that we're me and Barry, as long as you know we're not notably sick, as long as we're not symptoms of COVID, we're just too busy to test ourselves until afterwards, in which case Barry tested positive. But it was at a wedding instead of the last day. So he went to a wedding on the finals day. I had to run to the ship myself and then felt sick afterwards and tested positive. So if we're going to be walking around coughing, you know what I mean? But I don't know if that's morally wrong. Possibly.
Was it the hangover on the last day? Was it COVID? The hangover must have played a part there as well.
Yeah, that was, he went to a wedding, Barry, which is definitely worse than an outdoor Frisbee tournament. So you missed the whole Saturday.
A lot of people got COVID at that tournament, though.
Yeah, particularly towards the end as well. I don't know. Yeah. If I saw him or had spoken to him on Sunday, Monday, if he was like that, he would have isolated and tested. But there was a bit of a pact of let's not go. I got a booster like 3 weeks beforehand. I timed it. I delayed my vaccine boost to time it. I was kind of telling protection. I was telling the organizing committee kind of do the same thing. Like, let's time this booster. And like I said, kind of jokingly on we had a chat last night that I got COVID. I was like, our team meeting is now at my house. Everyone get here, lick me, get COVID now, and we'll all be fine for EUC. See, this is the kind of TDing you need for a successful tournament. Sacrificing your own health.
Plan when you get COVID optimally.
Yes,
that's the way.
I think so.
How are things going with the EUC? I mean, a lot of us are going to be over there. I'm sure I'm going to be there actually coaching. It's going to be an interesting shift for me. I'm coaching the Dutch Open team. We'll get into that, I'm sure, when we get to the Tom's Tourney coverage. But yeah, how are things going planning? It's your second time around now. Is it a little easier this time?
Yeah, I think it is easier this time. I actually spoke to the TDs of Cincinnati, and I asked them, like, what's the most difficult thing about running like a big tournament the second time? And they said complacency. That thinking that, we've done this before, you're going to do it again, that you don't need to make all the phone calls and double check things and get prices again for things. He says that's your biggest enemy. So I've tried not to fall into that trap of being complacent and kind of making everyone do everything again, even though they've already done it once. Because things change, or like people used before or whatever. And there's a lot to learn from last time. But I just think the amount of people, it's more easier for a venue. Like last year, we had the strange problem having to double the size of the event and have a lot of people stay off campus and use fields off campus, which logistically was a nightmare. Everyone's staying on campus. As I'm almost 100% sure every single team and player is staying on campus in the tournament accommodation. We're going to be pretty much exclusively using like the grass fields on South Campus. That may change weather dependent, but that like makes things so much easier rather than trying to bus volunteers around the city and get teams from other places and trying to. So even it's half the size, it's significantly less work. Then it's probably even less than half the work, but a lot less money.
So mostly grass pitches then, not the turf pitches there? Because I was expecting to play like almost all turf.
No, well, we have kind of 16, 17 main pitches, which 6 of them are turf. I think there's going to be like kind of 10 games any one time. That's kind of the way the schedule is kind of looking at the moment. We might release a schedule and not assign any pitches. Or what we did last time was kind of try and balance it out. But what I like to do is when we see the weaker weather, being like, okay, it's raining all week, we're going to be running the turf fields as much as we can, or it looks like great weather, like that. What happened the week after a tournament or the week before, and we'll play predominantly grass and we'll try and keep people off the turf. Right? That's the way I'd look at it. You know what I mean? And we have excess turf fields that I prefer not to play on turf for the most part. I think grass is better, particularly with lines and stuff like that. But if it's hectic weather like we had at Masters, you're going to be playing a lot on turf. Probably not as much as Masters, given it was just we've a lot less teams. So the grass isn't going to be under the same kind of pressure,
Yeah. Cool. I hope. I mean, I don't think we can get much worse weather than we had for Masters Worlds there. So let's hope that that holds up. Sean, you played just as I did at Masters Worlds. How did you like those fields in Limerick? What can you tell to some of the European listeners out there to expect at this complex?
The same as you. We played mostly on the turf, and honestly, as turf goes, it's pretty good. Certainly it's a lot harder than you get from grass. But the one thing I noticed about the grass fields, talking to people who played on them, obviously watching the games, it's really incredible how little they cut. It really is. You can tell just how good the whole complex is and how good the technology is on those fields. So it was really impressive. But I love the venue. The venue's great. So the fields are nice. The pub nearby was good. So I'm sure I was going to have a great time.
All right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So, yeah, a lot of things to talk about. We haven't been here on Eurozone since last season. Tons of national team rosters come out. We're not going to have time to get really into that now. I think the main topics we're trying to hit here are talking a little bit about the new format for club in Europe and what's going on with the spring invites, the elite invites, and how that's all shaping up, and maybe some of the controversy around how that's gone the first time around. talk about Tom's Tourney. We're recording this on Tuesday, just after Tom's Tourney, one of the biggest tournaments in Europe, and a lot of interesting results there, especially in the Open 1 and the women's division. Sorry, the Open 2 players. We're not going to talk about you guys too much. And then we got a few tournaments coming up this weekend. We got Vienna Spring Break and a Frankfurt invite tournament for some of the top mixed national teams. And for my books, the 4 top mixed national teams just all coming together to have a little bloodbath in Frankfurt together. So yeah, let's get started talking about this new format. So for the UC Club Series, people probably know there's sort of transition going on. There have been some complaints from people. I know Liam thinks this is a terrible idea, but they're trying to kind of phase out the EUCRs and just go to having a real regular season and using an algorithm to like rank teams and figure things out. One of the steps in that transition, we're still going to have EUCRs this year. One of the steps into that transition, though, is having these spring invite events that all have already happened, as well as the elite invite, which is the top 8 teams. And in the future, I don't believe the winner will get a spot to EUCF, but it'll just be, these will all count for ranking points and whatever. But this year, I think to establish buy-in to those tournaments, they basically told teams that if you win a spring invite, you get a spot to EUCF. You don't have to go to EUCR. You just get to go to EUCF, and that would give some incentive for people to buy into this tournament. And for elite invite, the top 2 teams out of the elite invite will go. So there's 2 spring invites per division and 1 elite invite per division. So 4 of the bids in each division will go to these invite tournament bids. And I think one more thing you have to add to that is how UF are doing roster rules this year. So a bit modeled after, because I helped them come up with this, and so a bit of it might be my fault, but a bit modeled after the French Federation, the way they do things is that you have to sign up with a team at the beginning of the season and be with that team all season, and you're allowed to transfer yourself once per year. And that's to allow for, like, if somebody moves like to another city, to allow them to, switch teams halfway through the season. We're trying to be a bit flexible. This isn't a pro sports league, right? So if people need to switch for whatever reason, we allow that. But of course, with that rule comes people figuring out how to use that rule. And some teams have definitely, since the spring invites happened way before all the other ones, there are even some teams that took people that are playing at the elite invite and they play with a different team at the spring invite. And then after that, they make the roster transition and then go play elite invite with another team. So they end up kind of qualifying a team at the EUCF for the UCF, but have no interest in actually playing with them there. And so then like a kind of pretender team ends up making it. There's one instance I think we'll get to with this that definitely kind of went this way. But before that, generally, I'm curious what you guys think of this new system and in general, like, yeah, people gaming it a little bit. Just general thoughts about that. Start with Sean.
I think the system overall is something I can kind of get on board with. You're right, I think, in that they made sure people had a bit more buy-in this year. So to attract teams to go, even saying that, though, you look at the spring invite lists and there were not many of the best teams in Europe that went to spring invite, even with that added incentive of an EUCF place. So the system overall is something I can get on board with. But the rostering thing, as you say, it is clearly, there's one instance where there's a team that's going to be going to EUCF that's not going to have the same roster they had at spring invite, which is very good. And that is a loophole they're going to need to close. They're going to need to look at in future. I don't think it's too difficult. It seems like if you're playing at a tournament that could qualify for EUCF, then you're locked in there. You can play with another team at something like Tom's and Windmill. No one's going to stop you doing that. But if you're directly affecting the EUCF, I think that is a different scenario, a different case completely. Especially if I don't know when this transition is going to happen, where it's ranking points rather than places to EUCF. But if it's going to go into next year and beyond, then it's definitely something that needs to change, I would say. But I probably hate the system a little less than Liam does. I think it can add some excitement to the overall picture when you have different tournaments that have this massive incentive.
Are you presuming how much I hate it? If you're saying a little less, that feels like you're always.
I'm assuming.
Because I hate it a lot. So if you only hate it a little less, you kind of also hate it a lot, just not as much.
I don't love it. But I see the excitement of having those places up for grabs. But I was assuming that you were going to really don't.
Yeah. Like I do like change and be open to change. So I'll take this as an experience to learn from. that I hope we learn never to do it again. But I think one thing it hurts, maybe this changing team once a year covers it. Maybe this was why. I thought initially it was going to hurt teams like Reading or Pelt or clubs. And when I say teams, I mean clubs that traditionally play in multiple divisions and want to maybe try and qualify multiple or participate in tournaments as one and then the other. And you don't want to discourage participation. That's for sure, right? That's not the goal here. So I'm guessing, and Ravi would kind of confirm me, this allowing people to change the team once a year would probably allow for that. That would probably cover that if people played Reading Open and then suddenly can change to Reading Mixed mid-season or something. That probably covers it in most aspects.
The way the current rules are set, you would be allowed to do that. Yes, you can switch teams. I think it doesn't say within a club is not allowed, so that should be okay.
Yeah, which I was worried when I initially saw some of the discussions that was going to be the case. But now I think this people gaming the system is completely wrong. I don't want to get into the situation currently. Let's talk more hypothetically. I think that's really wrong and bad. And like, I almost feel like these things should be governed by spirit. It's like you're allowed to change teams for like just reasons. It can't just be to qualify a team or you want to pick up and play with them. Like, I almost think sometimes these rules should be governed by like common sense and spirit and make people have to stand over their own actions rather than these are the rules and playing by the rules and be like, okay, no, these are why the rules are here for these specific situations. And you kind of try and put the onus back on players to use these rules appropriately. That may or may not stop people bending them, but I don't like the concept of people changing teams mid-season just because they want to or like the idea or want to stack a certain team for an event. I don't think that's what this is about or why that rule was brought in.
Yeah.
And I just felt like it was going to hurt the season and how you qualify for UCRs by having these events and taking up spots for UCF when maybe teams can't afford to go. And it's putting a lot of pressure on teams, I think, on the outskirts of qualifying to go to these. And I much prefer the capitalistic approach of our tournaments throughout the year are Windmill and Tom's and these other events that have proven to be really good and people want to go and they offer good value and participation and the best tournament wins that gets the most people there. And more Paganella does well or good based on how good value it is, or Tom's do, and some other club starts a tournament, it's really popular, rather than, well, we have to go to this tournament because this is the one that gets us points, not that one, or this one helps us qualify. I feel like it's I prefer, obviously, like teams can bid to run these or whatever. I'm sure there's some concept in that and sharing it around, but I much prefer the capitalistic approach to our early season or preseason. Yeah, that's my thoughts.
I will say, play the devil's advocate a bit and say that I know the eventual goal is to let any tournament where official teams are going count for ranking points. Like, so but as long as they operate within the roster rules, so you can't bring extra people that aren't on your EUF roster. But eventually, like, games at Windmill should count. Games at Tom's should count. So it still can be this approach. I wasn't one that suggested that you take the spring invites and make the winners get a spot to UCF. That actually, to me, was like, that fundamentally is like a little bit too much. I think that's just not the way you qualify. It's too early in the season. It shouldn't be based on one tournament, even forgetting the nonsense that happens. And we'll get into the nonsense that happened. But like, forgetting that, I just feel like winning a tournament in April should not qualify for you for the UCF. I feel like that's just a fundamental thing for me, that's not how a season should work. So a transition towards there is good, I guess. Maybe get people going. I played at the UCF spring invite. It was a great tournament. I had a lot of fun. But yeah, it's the way it finished. Let's just get into that. So it's actually funny because my team is guilty of doing a little bit of that too. So I'll talk from both sides. But the first invite we can talk about is the one in Leuven because that's the one that has the controversy. the controversy is that Jet Set, the home team from Leuven, qualified, but they took on at least 3 big pickups, which were Tom Blossman, who is definitely going to play with Grutz, Don Desmarais, who actually is a Jet Set original, like he's a Jet Set player. He's from Leuven, he lives in Leuven, but he plays the European series with Mooncatchers. So from what my sources tell me, he is still planning to play the European series with Mooncatchers, even though he qualified Jet Set for UCF. And they had Lucas Bouchon, who's another, French national team player, lives in Amsterdam, played for Is No Good, but was very, very key for them to win. So like that 3 star players that will not be playing with them in UCF. And they beat Bad Skid on Universe. Pretty good game, actually. Really fun to watch. But, it's leaves a weird taste in your mouth when a team that qualifies with 3 star players is then going to have those 3 star players disperse. I think, I totally agree with you, Liam, that there should be a way to, if there's a roster transfer, I feel like you should have to give a reason why you're transferring rosters, and then the EUF should approve it. Maybe that's what this is going to set. Maybe we didn't need to do that before, but now forward, I think there's something like this has to happen after it gets abused. It's the same thing like once Belgium U20 abused the community member rule, WIFDF scrapped it, right? So once some team goes too far, and it's already happened in the first year with the system, EUF's probably going to have to re-examine that.
When the Belgians go too far, right? Let's just be clear.
It's always the Belgians that go too far.
Always the Belgians, ruining it for everyone.
But like one rule I could see here that makes sense to me is if you want to have a tournament qualify you for UCF early, then a simple rule is if you're on a roster that qualifies for UCF, you're locked in. You can't switch teams. That will say star players won't, if they don't want to play with a team at UCF, they're not going to join a team and risk winning. And then you might get some weird thing where like Jet Set plays really well, and then in the final they like throw the game because they don't want to qualify for UCF at the start, something like that. So it's, I don't know, that gets a little dicey and weird. But I think that's one example. But maybe it's just what I said. Like if you have a roster transfer, you have to not only say I'm transferring, but give EUF a reason, and they have to approve it. And they'll probably approve most of them, but it just at least gives one more layer of like, this is what the rule is about. The rule isn't about have pickups and let them split teams and whatever. It's about allowing people that move cities or whatever have a real good reason to switch teams. Now, the team I played for, UFO, we came 8th at the tournament. We, actually had a pretty good outing for ourselves, won our pool, and then didn't do anything in bracket play. But we had 2 players on Grut playing for us here. But the weird thing is those guys actually practice with us every week. Like in the Netherlands is a very small country. Like in the open division, Grut doesn't play open. So they play open with like their clubs in their cities or whatever. And then they play the mixed and the European series with Grut. So these guys are like really part of our open team. They play Dutch nationals with us and everything. So they said, well, we can play one tournament with you, and then Grut doesn't play anything till Elite Invite, so we'll swap over for that. I don't think we had any real thoughts that we were going to get the UCF bid, but yeah. So I think some teams might do something like that, but I think, the UF's really going to have to rethink this rule. Sean, do you have any like ideas on if this is the system, beside what I said, what they could do about it?
I think that's the way to do it. If you go to UCF, if you qualify for UCF with a team, then that's that. I think going to Liam's point about stopping participation within a club, someone like Reading or Pell or someone that has a club that has teams in different divisions, I think you could pretty easily do it where, let's say that club qualifies in mixed and in open. The EUF just says, well, which roster are you going to be going with? Are both those rosters going to have, pick a number, 75% of the players that qualified? Because if it's a club that qualifies and you've got enough players to have an open team and a mixed team and a women's team and they all qualify, we should be encouraging that. That shouldn't be a problem. If you move things around, I think that's the prerogative of the people who run the club and who run the team. But if you have, let's say, Pell qualify for open and mixed with the same guys, and the guys all decided to go to mixed, where you say, well, the open roster is going to have 23% of the same players that qualified, and you say, well, in that case, you lose your open bid, it goes to someone else. You have some kind of barrier where it's like, if you can have all the same people, then fine. But if you need to prioritize because the club isn't very big, you just got a group of really good players that like playing in every division, you could still do that. You just don't necessarily have the qualification at the end of it. I think there's a way around that, and I agree. I think if you qualify for Euros, they do a similar thing with UK Nationals. If you qualify for UK Nationals with a team, then that's it. You can't transfer to another division. You're with that team now.
Yeah, I'm not really sure I'm down with that. Like, even if you say 75% of the team, I think that's too much. We saw here with Jet Set what difference 3 players can make, right? Like not just, and the rest of the Jet Set's a decent team, but without those 3 players, they weren't beating Bad Skid. I think if you want to have this European season, people are going to have to pick a team. That's my opinion. Like, and then that's if Reading's a huge club and they want to have mixed and open and they want to try to qualify with both, well, you should have 2 separate teams that are qualifying. Like, that's how you should be doing that. I think if you want to have a regular season count for things, which I think Liam thinks we shouldn't have that altogether. Liam hates regular seasons. He just wants to have the regionals. But if you want to have that, you're going to have to let people pick a team. And I know Frisbee's unique because we have this like mixed versus single gender thing, but I don't know. I feel if you want to qualify 2 teams for EUCF, those 2 teams should be separate and they should be qualifying because they can't be the same players when they get there.
Yeah, Reading and Pelt are very different examples. Reading have enough people that they could have 3 teams in each division, whereas Pelt, I know, is a smaller club and they're going to have some overlap there. But yeah, I mean, Liam's point is a decent one. That's something you want to avoid because, as he says, you don't want to limit participation in the sport.
Yeah, but then you just got to pick which one of your teams is. I'll let Liam respond to that in a sec. But which one of your teams is the one going for the EUCF? If you only have enough, you just have to decide that earlier on in the season, I think. And I think that's, if we want to legitimize it and have some regular season to follow, you're going to have to do that.
Yeah, like, it's so hard to start putting numbers on percentages or justification of this. When you start making these rules, often there's always some kind of loophole or people abuse them. And I think it's trying to put just having some kind of spirit rules of what this should be is almost like an easier way of doing it. And I think for the most part, then people would follow that. And as you said, Sean gave an example, what if Pelt qualified in open and mixed? And we did, I think 3 years ago. And we turned down, and there was a big discussion in the club, which one do I want to do? And the preference was mixed. And it's like, we get an open team with a lot of pickups. And then we're like, well, that doesn't seem right. So I think we turned it down. Is what happened there. And like, there's probably some people in the club were like, yeah, well, I want to go. So we'll fill up half the roster. And I was like, that doesn't seem right in terms of doing it. And there should be something there that, like, the team going should be the team that qualified. You shouldn't be picking up players for the purpose of qualifying knowing they're not going to play with the team. Or like some kind of baseline rules, or like, as you said, you should have a reason for transferring team. And here's examples of it. It should not be, and you should not be transferring teams for these reasons, it's trying to get EUF to prove every team transfer sounds like a lot of hard work and things like that.
I don't think there'll be that many team transfers if it's done the proper way, is the thing.
You reckon? Okay.
Like, if it's for the right reason, there won't be that many transfers in a year. So it's like,
yeah, True. Yeah, but you're also guilty of this with UFO, and you should be condemned for it. It's weird, that one with the UFO. You get teams like that. It's like, I don't know if they do train with them, and then the Dan De Marie one is like, well, that is his home club. Of the 3 that I feel the least annoyed about that, even though I'd probably say he's the best player of the 3.
He is the best player of those 3.
Yeah. Where it's like, I'm guessing he probably trains regularly with them, and like maybe he'd make that argument if you fill out a little form of like why you're transferring. It's like, look, this is my club team. It's early on the season. I then train at the European level of this thing. I don't know. That's
not a legit reason for me. That's not like, you can't.
It's true. It's not. I don't think it is either. It seems more legit than the other 2. The other 2 just seem like
for sure.
Like, I think he has some kind of leg to stand on and being like, look, it's my home team in my city I live in. I want to play with them because I like playing frisbee. The big thing is you shouldn't be qualifying in April. That's of what happened there. I think that was the real wrong, as opposed to him just playing with his home team.
Yeah, if it was ranking points, it still feels not great, but it's not as much as like, oh, you qualified, bringing these stars in, and they had no interest in playing with you. I'll go around to some of the other spring invite results. Disconnection from Freiburg qualified at the Padova tournament in mixed, beating Leamington Leaming's 13-12. That result might come into play later because I'll get into that in a sec. In the open division in Padova, 3SB, formerly Fui, now they're going all 3SB. They beat Padova Strategy, the home team, 15-8. Home team's making it to the finals, these tournament, looks like. And in the women's division at Padova, Shout, BFD Shout, no longer KUSP, now BFD, getting away from the university, qualified, winning 15-11 over East Block. And then in the spring invite in Wrocław, it was Frau Rauscher or Frub from Frankfurt, 11-5 over Hessliche Erdferkel, them taking the gold there. So another interesting wrinkle about this, from what I've heard, is that they made a bid distribution for each region, and they said that will not be affected by which teams qualify. So actually, if you're in a region, you're like rooting for teams for your region to qualify, because then there's basically more free bids at your EUCR. And like, for example, now 2 central mixed teams have qualified in Frub and Disconnection. I would say there's a high chance that Hrut qualifies at the Elite Invite. That would be 3 mixed teams that are going from Central, and I think there's still 2 more bids in Central. So now like 2 teams that are not those 3 will also get to go to UCF. So that's another weird wrinkle. But yeah, there also will be 2 teams qualifying at the Elite Invite. So the 2 finalists at the Elite Invite will qualify. And there's some overlap, actually. So I know that in the mixed division, for example, Disconnection, who already qualified in Spring Invite, is also playing Elite. And I think they're a team that definitely has a shot to make the finals of Elite Invite. And in the Open Division, 3SB is also playing there. Also a very good team. Definitely could see them in the final. And Shout, I believe, is also playing in the women's division. And I asked Felix Nemec, who's one of the EUF guys and runs the format, what's going to happen if the teams that qualified in Elite Invite make it to the final, qualified in Spring Invite, make it to the final of Elite Invite. Who does the bid go to? Does it go to the 3rd place team in Elite Invite or the 2nd place team in Spring Invite? And he told me it's the 2nd place team in Spring Invite. So those teams that just lost out to Shout, Disconnection, and 3SB, they could actually still get a bid into EUCF if any of those teams make the final at Elite Invite. So that's a interesting wrinkle there. Was there also a Spring Invite in London? I don't see it here in the EUC results. I thought there was a women's one there.
There was indeed. Dublin Gravity won that.
Okay. And they are not at the Elite Invite.
No, they didn't make quarters at Euros last year.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Anything else about this, about these spring tournaments, or should we go into Tom's?
The one quick thing to add as well is that some of those regions you talked about are going to be merged. So Central Mixed, for example, is going to be merged with North. Right. So some of the Baltic states are going to have, Baltic and Nordic states are going to have potential opportunities in mix that they haven't previously had, which could be fairly interesting. But other than that, yeah, you summed it up pretty well there.
Yeah, and I think the Central North Regionals is going to be in Sweden. So all those Central teams are probably pretty happy that they qualified now and don't have to go up to Sweden to travel for EUCR. But yeah. Anything else, Liam, on this new EUF format to talk about?
I think more teams probably should have targeted this as a way of qualifying. By the sounds of it, like it wasn't that hotly contested. I know Pelt went to Wrocław, didn't we? Who was Spring Invite there? That was the thing, wasn't it? Did we forget that one? Yeah. I was like, wow.
It was only mixed. Yeah, mixed was there, and yeah, Pelt. I
was like, they had a pretty decent team. They lost a tough quarterfinal, but actually did very well. I think they might have beat one of the teams in the final. I can't remember how it went down, but they could have definitely picked up like 2 players and possibly won it. You know, they could have done a get Dandy Marie over guns for hire. You know, this probably
he can only transfer once, so I don't think he's going to transfer from Jet Set to there and then
get a Belgian. The Belgians are absolutely up for it.
Yeah, they just like testing the rules. They're like, oh, the rule that needs to like test it like an elastic band. We're here to show the flaws. They're just here to help the Belgians. But yeah, that could have been like for our places, as you said, I think the hometown teams did well. It's like, hey, we can qualify for UCF and save a plane ticket or a long car journey. Get that one out of the way. So yeah, it's weird. It's really weird. It's weird you say like teams that qualify in April. I haven't, like a lot of teams may not even really started training yet, even for UCF or the season, like particularly in cold countries, like the season probably hasn't started yet in like Sweden.
Still playing indoors.
I mean? Yeah, then it's like already qualified for the tournament in October, whatever it is. It's like, that's weird. Yeah.
Can't argue with that. Yeah, I'm not down with qualifying teams in April. Like also, it's like for the Netherlands, for example, let's say UFO had won that tournament. We only get 1 bid to regionals. So it would be funny if like we lost to lost Dutch nationals, didn't even qualify for regionals, but we were going to UCF because we qualified in this event. I find it a bit bizarre. I'm not down with that, but I'm sure that they'll take a lot of feedback on this one and change it in the coming years. Okay. Let's go on to Tom's Tourney, one of these big capitalist tournaments that Liam likes, just getting people to join, not for any qualification, just because people actually like the tournament. Great events in Bruges, happened this past weekend. Let's start talking about the women's division, where GB comes out and beats Shout in the final. And I think that wasn't something too many people expected. Sean, I know you're from that area. What are your thoughts here about this GB women's team?
The team looks very good. Full disclosure, I was helping at the trials. I was at the initial trials before they picked the team, kind of helping move people along. And the pool of players, I was really impressed with the quality level. I think the big difference from the last rotation is the kind of younger generation coming through. Teams like Spice, to a certain extent, kind of Smart Glycini, been bringing through some younger players, but particularly Spice. Some of the under-24s from the rotation in Heidelberg have been really exposed to high levels. Went to Worlds last year, and you can see the depth in the team is better than it's been for the last couple of rotations, and the athleticism is really good. And they just have, at the top of the roster, they have very high level athletes. You've got Molly Wedge, who's one of the best players in Europe, went over to America and played really well in USAU, but you've also got Rachel Nathan and Karen Kwok, who played World Games with GB, and you've got Layla Deniston, who's on that World Games training squad. And when you've got kind of that level of athleticism in the squad, you've got a high level of, or a high average of athleticism as well. And the skill level is really good as well. It's been improving over the last few years. I think it's just a culmination of a lot of work that's gone into the women's division here, and a lot of teams that have been doing good work. And yeah, they look great. I expected that they'd be pretty good. I thought they had a good shot at making semis, but winning was a great outcome for them. I was really impressed with how they played. And also the final and their semi-final were just very entertaining games. Just really fun games to watch.
Yeah, you can check those out on ulti.tv. They came out early in a tough pool. They had to get through Desky and the Netherlands. The Netherlands, I know, very disappointed in their result, losing out to Desky on that streamed game, and then losing to GB, I think, by 2 points as well.
Yeah.
Definitely felt that that put them down into the 9-16 bracket, where they won with relative ease. Although the Germany U24 team, they only beat them 15-13, so there was some competition down there. But the Netherlands, I know, not happy. I mean, I'm part of the national team program here now in the Netherlands, and I know the Dutch women are really setting their eyes very high this season, taking a lot of those pieces there, but not really coming together here at Tom's, which doesn't it means what it means, but it's still early season. But yeah, so that's extra impressive for GB to come out of a tournament where they had to play Desky before the drinks got in. Because I know Desky later in the tournament lost 15-4 to the Czech women, but early on they were still playing really well. But once the beers got in, things, I talked to Anya Gilhini a bit before her first game. She's like, we have a very high variance of how this weekend could go. We could win the tournament or come last place. Like, it depends on, we're expecting anything really here. But they did come out of the pool, made his quarters, and didn't quite get past there, and ended up getting 8th in the end. But yeah, Liam, did you see this women's results? Anything else surprise you here? We also got France coming in 4th behind Jinx in the bronze game, and then the Belgians and the Czechs coming behind there with Austria in the 7th place. So what do you have to say about this women's division?
Yeah, forget about the king. Let's talk about the queens. GB women, bringing it home. It's good to see. I felt like a bit of a revival. It's probably the first time I've seen a GB women's team in a while kind of at that level play with kind of togetherness. It looked like there was something going on and happening there. And it's bizarre. Obviously, Rupal Galani, who's been probably the standout player in that division for the most part as well, not on the team. So you'd wonder what they'd do if she was involved as well this year. But it kind of seems like there was a big kind of transition of generations for the last while, and maybe that's finally kind of coming in to play now. How I was going to say how weird, or maybe how great it would be if the GB women won EUC and the GB men lost. I'd really enjoy that. I don't know why. I think that'd be that's like a spicy hot take on what could happen. But yeah, I thought there's kind of a couple of countries in that as well. I have France as well. A lot of young players, a lot of young players, but have that athleticism There was definitely, I think we're seeing a lot of countries just in the women's division looking towards EUC, where there's a big turnover, whatever seems nearly across Europe in the women's division of players, and maybe a slightly different caliber in terms of less experience, maybe more athletic, or just because the fact they're younger, they're more athletic. But France looked a completed outfit of what we've seen before, but look good. I think there's a lot of both teams look like they're going to get better. Even maybe it's not UC or next year and stuff like that. It looks like they have a lot of talent to blossom, and you can see something developing there. About those sides, Netherlands, I watched the ski game, and it's just like they're not going to win anything if they play like that. I'm sure they'd say the same thing. It was not a particularly good game, and we've seen a lot of those players, particularly playing the mixed division, a hell of a lot better. And you're just wondering, that's obviously all I saw. Maybe they played better in other games, but I think that's going to be the challenge for them, is clicking and finding roles and complementing each other, and that talent, turning that into a cohesive team. Because it just felt, it was like awkward watching it or something like that. Like, I don't think it was, there was obviously errors, but there was not a lot of flow to what was going on. Plenty of athleticism and talent, but that wasn't resulting in good frisbeeing. But I think that's something that could be quickly turned around. I think, was it Audi picked them to win EUC in our
I think Rapazzo picked them to win.
Oh, was Rapazzo?
Yeah.
I think Audi might have picked them as well.
He might have also, He might have also.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised by that. But then, I suppose if you talent, you wouldn't be surprised. But proving it in that division at that level is something they haven't done, and it is a big change.
Previously, the Crit women have done quite well at Toms. I think they've come, and even I think there was a year that the Dutch U20 team, which was a big core of this, they also did really well at Toms, and it was this one just it didn't come together. And I agree with you. I don't want to say too much because it's partly my team. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I agree that I don't think they came out the way they wanted to look at this. They
underachieved what the talent they have, and and I hope they don't take that as an insult.
Yeah.
And it is quite difficult to maximize a team from the talent you have. That's where coaching cohesiveness comes in, and it's still very early on in the season. I think they're going to Windmill. I think a team like that going another tournament under the belt. No, they're not.
No, I'm not going to Windmill. Hrut is trying to defend their title, so I'm part of the national team
even more.
organization, and so I was I was trying to get the Dutch Open team to go, and they're like, no, Hrut's going, and we're like, well, okay, then we can't really go. If all our best players are playing a different
the
team.
women's division at EUC has a little pre-warm-up tournament beforehand. The group
I know they're doing a practice game against Germany at some point.
Every team is doing 3 practice games before it actually starts. There's the practice groups, pretend groups before the real groups, so they can just play around with that for a while. And they got 3 or 4 games to figure things out. I think you'd lose the first 6 games and maybe win the tournament still. I think that's actually possible.
Sean, you got any other thoughts about Jinx women did really well with 14 players, and I think eventually they kind of just ran out of steam. But what about the other national teams here? Did you see Belgium, Czech, Austrians, and Spanish not doing quite so well, down a little bit lower in the rankings? Anything else from the national teams that you saw?
The Czechs I like a lot. I think they've got a lot of really good players. They've got some of the eSport players, and 3SB have obviously had a couple of really good seasons. I think they're a dark horse for the tournament. They move the disc around really nice. I know Austria was streamed, although I haven't watched that game, so I haven't seen them, and I don't think Spain was streamed. But I think the women's division is really set up for an interesting time in Limerick. As Liam says, there's going to be some games to kind of feel each other out at the beginning, which is going to be interesting. But we haven't seen the Germans yet. As you say, Jinx beat GB, played really well. We haven't seen the Italians, but Shout are really good, and Disco Bolo are good. And Padova have made Euros last year. So the Italians and the Germans, we'll see what happens with them. But it's going to be a pretty intriguing division. I do have a take on the women's division that I wanted to get Liam's thoughts on. GB obviously looking really good, and they remind me of a team from the last cycle. They have kind of a creative throwing handler. They've got a defensive presence that's basically unbeatable in the air, that also wears gloves, and they have a deep cutter who can't really be stopped in open lanes in Hannah Brew, Molly Wedge, and Rachel Naden respectively. Reminds me a little bit of Anya Vahini, Fiona Murner, and Sarah Melvin from last time around for Ireland. Any thoughts?
Teach them to play zone defense, and they can probably win. A very simple zone defense that everyone in Ireland plays, but nobody in Europe can figure out. If they can do that one. I think talking about a team that maximized potential from talent, that's Irish women's team did that. And I think Ian French is very good at doing that. I think a team like that, that's why I joke about zone, but players who have roles can be really good in a zone. You know what I mean? They may not have fully skilled players in all aspects, but really good at one thing. So yeah, I think it's possible to have 2 or 3 star players and win the tournament if you can get the most out of everyone else. And yeah, I think GB could. I see the striking resemblance you've reflected on there.
And speaking of star players, shout, I think coming second in this tournament pretty good. They did lose to France along the way and end up losing to GB. I think it was one of the first times we've seen them out there without Feralfi. Except when she was injured, but now she's, from what I understand, pretty much retired, not coming back to play elite level anymore, hanging up the cleats. They did bring in Lasma Kublitska, and Anna Chesky was there, but missing Feralfi, and I'm looking at the roster. I actually didn't see anything. I was coaching, so I didn't see, but it looks like Irena Scazzieri's not listed there, so maybe she also wasn't there. I don't know if she's coming back to Italy.
No.
Sorry,
she wasn't there. Definitely,
she wasn't there. So that's another star loss. I still haven't seen the Italy women's roster, but I imagine without Feralfi, that's going to be a tough ask. We all know, like last cycle when they came out and had that crazy upset against Germany, but that was really on the back of Chesky, Scazzieri, and Feralfi. So missing one or two of those pieces will be interesting to see. I know Italy is not like just based on stars. They have a huge program and are building lots of players. I'm sure we'll learn about some new stars coming later this year. But I'm curious to see how the Italians are going to look. Okay. So anything else with the women's division, or should we move to the Open? That's it. All right, Open division. Let's start. Well, we can go other
Open
places.
Division 2,
in the
is this? Start with Open Division 2. Get into that one.
Great.
Bordeaux won, didn't they?
Bordeaux getting out there and
how did Blue Arse Flies do? They're the stalwarts of Div 2. They're always there. I was told they only have Div 2 at Tom's Tourney because they spend a lot more money in the bar. And that's capitalism for you. This is one of the failings of capitalism.
And that's how you fund the tournament. Next year is going to be their 30th anniversary. They know what they're doing. They have to keep it going.
They're still going to
come. I played Div 2 twice, and I definitely spent a lot of money at the bar. So yeah, I see that.
Yeah, a lot of English drinking lout seems to be like that's what we should rename Div 2 to, and stop streaming them. They're still going to come and drink loads anyway. We don't need to film it. Awkward.
How many games did they film? I think there was definitely an early round. I think there was the first round of Friday was only Div 2 playing. So
yeah,
you might as well stream one. I think they streamed the final.
They could have moved something around. They could have moved something around. Give me something interesting to watch. Waste of
just give LTTV a break. Let them sleep in the first morning and then start in the second round.
So Liam loves capitalism and hates the less talented. So we're really looking at like.
What's that? Socialism? I don't know.
That's definitely not socialism. It's something else.
All right.
Open
one. Let's talk about real frisbee. Open one. I think. Well, we can start at that. We can start in the final, I guess. Mooncatchers beating La Fota 14-10. Pretty complete performance there by Mooncatchers. Interestingly, they didn't have their U24 players. Those players are playing on Belgium U24, which is another team that made semis, also very talented, along with the De Crane brothers from Gentle. They took Ben Yonkers, Sofiane Bontemps, and quite a few of the Don Desmarais, quite a few top Moon players. Moon did bring in some friends from around the way. Paul Arders, who played with them at Worlds last year, so he's not like he's just a random pickup. And Gael Ancelin, who also won't be playing with Moon in the European series. This year he's playing with Seskidistas back on his home club, but came over for Tom's. They got, of course, Latvians, but those are basically Moons now, right? Like Arvids and Tom's Abeltinch. No, I don't think Maldaris was there, but him. They brought in Jakob Tom from Estonia, big indoors player. and also Misha, the guy, the Czech player from Fui, playing with them. So definitely had some friends coming in. I've been told most of those, except for maybe Paul and Gael, are going to be playing the season with them. But yeah, coming out here and beating GB Open in semis and then winning against Lefota. And Lefota, it didn't really feel close, actually. It was pretty much a very decisive one-sided game from what I saw.
Yeah.
Final was a bit boring. The conversation in the live chat was definitely more interesting.
In the final?
What was the highlight in the final? Yeah, there was a lot of talk about pickups. Me and Felix were having a debate amongst other people. Felix Nemo, that is, for UF. But there was one good moment when, who was it kicked the frisbee? Was it Arvids and who was it on the Italian side?
Oh, it was Chopo.
Yeah.
And Chopo, like one person tapped the frisbee on stopping the roll, and the other guy like threw it back, and the other guy put it back again. It
was like some weird game of checkers with frisbees or something. It was kind of, I don't know what was going on. It was kind of funny though. That was my highlight anyway. Otherwise, I don't know why.
The highlight of that game was definitely when at some point Tom Zableton basically threw a player. Like, it's not just a break. He basically just ignored the fact that a body was there and threw a crazy huck through a player, and Gael Ancelant skied the hell out of like 2 or 3
that was pretty
players.
good.
That was a insane grab by Ancelant there. That was my highlight. Although moving the disc around was pretty funny.
Tied for best moment of the final.
Sean, what do you think about the final?
Honestly, I stopped watching after a while because I found it a bit dull. Especially after the 2 semi-finals were really exciting and really close. I had other business going on Sunday. It was my mom's birthday, so I was tied up elsewhere. So if it was going to be a really fun, exciting game, I could have justified watching it. But when it was a bit dull and I found it a bit... I felt like you both said, I thought pretty early on it was pretty clear Moon winning that game. So I was like, I'll watch that next week.
Yeah, Lefota for the first time without Davide. I thought that would maybe help him out, but maybe they still need that guy to keep that fire going. He was off playing with Red Bulls.
He was there in his fisherman costume, wasn't he?
I definitely saw him on the sideline of Shout's games. I don't know what he was doing with Shout. I don't know whether he was coaching Shout, but he was definitely on the sideline of the women's final. I'm sure he was.
He was always around. He's always around somewhere, but he wasn't officially part of the team for Lefota for the first time in quite some time. Okay, let's talk about then those semis. First one, which one? Let's start with the less controversial one. It was a really intense game. It was about Mooncatchers versus GB Open. I remember talking to some of the Moon guys the night before. They were thinking because we had played with Dutch Open team. We had played GB Open in quarters. They were asking us what do you think? Blah blah blah. And yeah, I thought GB Open was the better team on paper, especially depth wise. I mean, Moon had 12 really good players and then a few depth players that aren't that good, right? And GB has a very good roster top to bottom. But talking to some of the Moon guys afterwards, they said their O-line getting a little old and just wasn't that as powerful as it used to be. I don't know, Sean, these are your boys from GB. I don't think they would have been very happy with coming third at this tournament. What do you think of that semifinal?
They definitely would be happy with third. Although, Clapham obviously had a slow start last year going into Worlds. That went very well, although it didn't end potentially as well in Kaole. But the semi was weird, a weird game for GB in that early on, obviously there's the 2 breaks right out the traps. It's a bad start. But from there, it looked like they were fully in control. And then their offense kind of stopped functioning, particularly the dump play. It looked like they kind of lost control of what they were doing. They had 2 people running into the same space and then both stopping and kind of leaving the throw with no options several times. They kind of got stuck on sidelines and weren't moving it effectively. The final point is just, a bad throw, bad option from players that know each other so well and just, fluff their lines. It was a very peculiar game. I wonder whether, like you said, they're getting older, but then they know each other so well. They're bringing in some new pieces. They've got a couple of guys on the O-line that don't play Clapham that they haven't played before. Josh Easter's on that O-line, and he's never played GB Open before. He's never played with a lot of those guys. I wonder whether that's slowing them down a little bit. They've moved people across. Conrad Wilson was on the D-line. I thought was a bit of a surprise. He seems like an offensive player to me. But then defensively, they were getting blocks. They just weren't converting from there, which has been one of their strengths the last few times. So just a weird game. Like GB, I think, to be honest, I think GB left it untabled. It was there for them to win, and they just stopped playing at the end of the game. Moon stepped it up and played well. But
are they fluffers now? Is that what they are? Are they fluffing it? It kind of resembled how they fluffed it against Ranelagh, isn't it? Like look very commanding at one point of the game, and then on weird swingy resets, people coming into the same place and like just deciding not really wanting to win. It felt like that a bit. I don't know. It was strange. I think we start showing shade at them now. I think is good.
Perhaps.
I think the thing about those guys is they've all won so much. Clearly, they can figure this stuff out. But that's
But they're still lacking a coach, Sean. Do they have a coach this year?
They do have a coach.
They do. Tommy Garwood is the coach. He was there. He's been coaching them the whole time. He has been. We've talked about this before. He's been coaching Clapham, but not been going to tournaments. But he has been going to tournaments with GB. So he is there. So there's that as well. I don't know.
Who is he?
Sorry to be.
Is that rude? I don't know if it's rude.
Tommy's never played at the top level, but he's coached GB kind of underage teams up to this point, and he's played at club level in the UK. So he's been around the GB program, and he's trained with Clapham. I coached Clapham at training sessions, so he's come through the kind of coaching system rather than the playing system.
Okay, good. Because last cycle, I probably should have noticed this since I coached against them and probably shook his hand at some point. So forgetting that, sorry about that if that's what happened. But like in the previous cycle in 2016, they didn't have any coaches for GB Open, and that's something that maybe they need to trust him to figure out their systems and listen to one voice and get that sorted. We'll see if they can figure that out. But from what I saw, also playing against them and against Mooncatchers, I think, of course, they might improve a lot over the season and still be the dominant team they usually are. But especially with teams like Germany and Belgium looking like they're going to be pretty strong this year, and maybe even Italy. I'm not sure this is maybe one of the least dominant GB looking teams so far. I think it's more for the taking in the Open Division this year than maybe it has been in previous years.
Yeah, which I think it's great for the division. I think last year was just, is it going to be GB or Germany?
Yeah.
And everyone was just there to fill out the division and watch the final. But there was absolutely
now we have 3 teams that it could be. So it's got Belgium, GB, or Germany.
I think 4 teams. You
think Italy's in that conversation?
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
I think U24 is going to affect it. It did last time.
That's true. Is Italy all in with U24s?
I believe so.
I haven't seen their roster either, I think, but
I believe that they are looking at 24s, and some people won't be pulling double duty and concentrating on 24s.
We'll see.
It's going to be tough for Belgium and Italy doing that. Interesting to see how
speaking
that pans out.
Speaking of U24s, let's go to the other semi, which was Lafota versus Belgium. And I think Lafota was up 13-8 at one point. Belgium U24 rattles off 5 points in a row. And then we get to that universe point. And the universe point was absolutely insane. The first hammer goes up, and it was Lander de Craan, and I believe Pavan was the catcher. Both of them going up and catching pretty much simultaneously, and I think people have some argument about which way that went. But eventually it was contested, went back, and then another turnover on Belgium's side. Belgium puts up this huck that looks so perfect from Lander de Craan to Toby de Craan, and then Tognetti just leaps up into the air way earlier than you thought he would need to, but leaps up and just bats it away, gets it back to Lafota. Then Lafota works it up all the way, and Gasparini has it on the sideline, and I have no clue what he thinks a foul is, because he just reaches around to push pass, doesn't see Toby de Craan, I'm sure, is lurking. Toby de Craan lays out, gets a catch block, then he calls a foul on the mark as if that wasn't exactly the throw he was going to make. I do not like that call. So a bit of a weird universe point. Eventually that gets contested, goes back, and then Italy punches in a score. So aside from that let's talk about the last point later, but this comeback that Belgium had, talk about that first. Sean, what are your thoughts on how Belgium was able to just come back from 13-8 to 13-13?
Belgium are good, man. When they play their top players, when they play their best players, they are really good. It's going to be fascinating to see how they do against Americans, Canadians, because like we talked about the De Cranie brothers, Dandemare, Yonkers, Bontemps, when they've got all those guys on and they're all firing, they are they are tough to stop. They are really good. So then just the mental resilience to be playing against one of the best teams in Europe. Lofoten have made the final how many times? They won Euros, and you're going up against this team that are, 1 or 2 points away from making the final, and you roll all the way back into the game. I was really impressed with how the defensive pressure they were able to put on, and then just how clinical they were, and like the downfield athleticism. They're tough to stop going deep, and I just thought it was a great game until the final point, which I thought spoiled it a bit. But
is Dan Dimery like a top 5 player in Europe?
Honestly, might be close.
He's getting there.
Yeah.
Is he already? Is it just because he looks like a soccer player that's been playing for 1 year sometimes when he's running around? But then you're like, he just got like 3Ds and threw the hooks and did everything. He does look like he just started playing, but he also looks like the best player. And I'm like, is he? Is it just because he doesn't have a brother with an interesting name that we're not holding him to the same regard as, I think Ref is top 5. I think I was to do like a draft, I think I'd have him. I think right now.
He's pretty good, man. I mean, that game, I remember when Mooncatchers beat Lofoten in that first game of ex-UCF in Bruges. I think he was involved in every single break or something like that they were in. Like that's the first time I noticed him, and he's only gotten better since then.
Yeah. Offensively, he's improved. Like he's been since that game. Every time you look at him, he's been an elite defender. But offensively now, he could dictate a whole game. Like he is at the level now where he can just get every other, make great passes, make great decisions, not make any mistakes. He's really, really good. Yeah,
I thought he was the instrumental in that comeback, and yeah, they've got a lot of incredible players again. Then under 24, Bon Toms, some other people stepping up. Like not to bring back to UC, but they 100% have the talent to win UC. I think just raw talent, as good as any of the teams there. Bring it all together, it's a different story. But can I get into the controversies now? Like
let's talk about the universe points.
The first one, that contested hammer catch. One bad decision throughout. There was a poach there.
Yeah.
Just I just want to add that. I think that should come into the thinking. I think in real time, anyone watching that, me watching the live stream, anyone there would probably say in real time that's the catch happened at the same time. Offense gets it. I think without the slow-mo replays, that would have been the resolution, or certainly would have been my view from the sideline as a neutral. I think there's just, but then on the slow-mo replay, it did kind of feel like, but the angle could have been helping the, was it the defender at this point, or was it, it was helping
the defender,
I think it did look like it could have been a millisecond before, but it comes weird, like that's, are we doing that now? Is it milliseconds before or something like that? Like I think that was not a bad call. I don't care if someone says, like, if they watched the replay, didn't watch the replay, if that was a Pavan or who was it? I can't remember who it was. Yeah. If they thought they had that at the same time, or the defender thought that at first, I don't think there's anything. I don't think that's an unspirited call. Maybe the gravity of the situation is putting a lot more weight on it, but like even with slow-mo replays and photos and things like that, there's still a bit of debate. So I'm not going to hold. There's nothing wrong with spirit there, in my opinion.
I think contesting and sending back is actually the right call there. Like that's what
I wanted to happen. Yeah.
It's too close to call, and like I think it's like the defender touches it first, but did he catch it before the other guy caught? Like it's you're getting into splitting hairs into this thing, like, and I think there's arguments both ways, and going back, whatever. What about the foul call?
Yeah, this one's a weird. I'm almost looking at two ways. One, was there contact like that would deem it a foul? And my thought is no. Again, a weird angle. Someone kind of runs across in a key moment in the replay that makes it like hard to be conclusive about that. So I'm not 100% sure, but seemingly there seems to be minimal contact. This does come out a bit wobbly, but that tends to happen with push pass. Two, and I think nearly the more important part is I'm not sure if it affected the play. Like that push pass, is it traveling much faster, and the Kranich doesn't get the bid on it? Like, really unlikely. Like, you know what I mean? The flight path of a push pass like that, like, he's not bulleting it. It's not like, I just think if he executes that perfectly the way he wanted to, foul or not, that's a D. And I think the play should stand. That would nearly be my more argument over. I think they started arguing about the contact, and I feel like I was looking at the defenders, like, you need to argue this, that it didn't affect the play. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I don't know how you'd say, as you said, Ravi, earlier, I don't think he thought the defender was as close as he was. And it was a bad choice. I do love a push pass, but I think at that particular moment, it was a bad choice.
And I think that there might be, he throws with his right hand, and there might have been some contact on his left arm, but his right hand was untouched. His right hand that made the pass was completely untouched, and I think that push pass went exactly the way he was planning for it to go, and it definitely didn't affect the play. That's my big thing about it. I totally agree with you, Liam.
He knows Bonsont's arm is going to be coming, and he reaches the push pass out around it. Like, he knows it's going to be. He knows that the arm's going to be coming across, and he intentionally reaches to where he knows the contact isn't going to come onto the disc. So he's pre-planned it when he's making the throw that there won't be contact on the disc. There's no contact on that. I have to be fair. I wasn't even looking at the left hand. I was looking at the disc, and there's definitely no contact there. It's a bad goal. But I think, to be fair, it had been getting more and more physical. There'd been a lot more bumping, kind of certainly as the game went along. And in that last point, it was pretty physical. But yeah, it's not a good goal.
Yeah, the Italians bringing back the bump. It used to be like their trademark. Kind of went away there for like a year, but back to the old stall one bump.
Yeah.
Bringing it back, old school. Is it retro?
Yeah, I'm not
cool
a big
again
fan
now?
of bringing back the bump, but
I hate stall one bumps. I bump people back if they do that to me. Does that make me bad? But
no, I think that's how you have to respond to it. Because the problem is you can't reset the stall with contact because it doesn't help you. It just stops the throw illegally. But yeah,
no, there's no way to punish it at the time. Like, if someone bumps you stall 5, you're like, thank you, I'll take a free reset. But stall 1 bump is just. He's got to wear it on the chin. Hey, we're going to
stop flow illegally. That's not what we're doing. All right. Anything else about the semis? We can also look at the rest of the division. Chalk getting 4th over Spain. The Dutch team I was coaching, getting 7th over Jet Set. Jet Set without Demare and Tom. Tom was actually playing with us.
Was Spain good?
I really would have loved to play Spain. I was hoping in that last semi, I saw that we were, if we had both lost or we had both won, we would have played Spain in the end. But Spain got Jet Set, we got Chalk, and Chalk were a bit too fast and a bit too, they played better than us. I'm not going to say much more than that. And I was really bummed out because I really wanted to see how good they were. I heard that from other people that saw them, I didn't get to see them, but that they were pretty good. Sean, did you see them on stream at all or anything from them?
I don't know if they were streamed, but if they were, I haven't watched their games.
Yeah, a lot of Goyota guys, I think, playing on that team. Some of the best players out of Barcelona. I think they're really taking it, got a lot of buy-in from their top dudes to try and really do something with the grass national team. I saw signs back in 2019 of like a pretty athletic team that needed to get their pieces together. I think Spain might be a bit better than people give them credit for coming this year in EUC.
Were you happy with the tournament overall, Ravi, from a Dutch perspective?
With my team?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty happy. So how things went, we were in a pool with Wall City is no good, Belgium U24, Panthers Burn, and the GB Masters. And we only lost to ISNO. So we actually started off beating Wall City. Pretty happy about that. We had our second game against ISNO, and that was on stream. We were up 12-11, lost 14-12, a little bit of mental breakdown at the end there. And then we beat Belgium U24, and that's why I was also pulling for Belgium U24 to win the tournament so that we could have been the only team to have beaten them, which would have felt pretty good. But yeah, that Belgium U24 game, we came out like, on paper, they had better score differentials on all the mutual opponents. So we thought, and we knew some of their star players. But oddly enough, we had a game plan of, keep our lines loose at the beginning, and we're going to have to tighten up at the end to just try and see if we can win and use our stars to win. But actually, our depth, are just like normal D lines, got a bunch of breaks at the beginning that we just came out firing, and they just weren't ready for it. And very similar to the La Fota game, they had a big comeback at the end, but we had enough of a buffer that we actually were able to. We got our O line, I think, got broken twice. We then put our D-line out on O. They got broken, and then our O-line went out and still won by 2. So we had quite a big buffer by the time that to the net games. Really happy with that result. Sadly, if we had not gotten broken all those times and just beat them 13-9, we actually would have won the pool. We had a 3-way tie with Isno, us, and Belgium U24. And if we had won the pool, we would have had Jet Set in quarters instead of having GB in quarters, and we probably would have made semis. Similarly, if we had won that Isno game, similarly, if Wall City had beaten Isno, which Wall City lost on Universe, if any of those 3 things had gone correct, better for us, we would have been in the winning the pool and getting Jet Set in quarters. But the way it worked out, we weren't able to get those last few points we needed. But yeah, really happy with my boys, and excited to see what we're going to do later on. What did you guys think seeing our team out there? Maybe we had that one streamed game. Getting that result against Belgium, I bet, was surprising a few of you.
Surprised me, definitely. Yeah, look good. As I said, look good against Belgium. Honestly, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, better than I expected. It was like knowing some of the Belgian players more than I know some of the guys in your team. But it just looks like everyone knew what they were supposed to be doing. Belgium were a little bit loose, a little bit frantic at the start of that game. But your guys just looked like they were pretty calm, know what they're supposed to do. So looking forward to seeing how the rest of the season goes. Good start.
I only found out just now, so I'm really surprised that you beat. I didn't even know that you did so well until like the very end. I looked at results and I was like, 8th. They got the top 8.
Seventh.
And I was like, oh, okay, good for them. They must have lucked their way into that, but it sounds like you did it out of merit, which I am surprised. Yeah, well done. Well done. Beating Belgium U24 is good. Did you do the old Tom's Tourney when you got a big lead, run the clock down, call some timeouts?
You only get one timeout. I'm not going to reveal anything about how we won any games. That's if you guys watched something and saw that, that's up to you to see it. But I'm not going to talk on this podcast about.
It's gone to 60 minutes now, and actually some kind of a cap, right? Tom's Tourney.
Yeah, it's cap plus one. 60
Thank
minutes.
Fucking God! Oh my God!
Still no halftime for some reason. I think you can at least do the mirror half, but they don't want any half times.
God forbid we waste too much time if everyone had to walk to the other side of the field, Ravi. This is crazy talk.
We've already established the Belgians have no respect for the rules. They're making their own rules. They're changing the way the game's played. When you come to our country, it's all chaos.
Yeah. No, half time. What kind of crazy concept is that, Ravi? Because I actually had a disliking for Tom's Tourney in like the 50-minute games, and where it ended, and it was like games were ending like 8-6 and stuff like that. And I was like, this sucks. And like, I think even just watching it, the addition of the 10 minutes and the cap is like, this feels like a normal game of Ultimate now.
Yeah. They changed the format too. They used to have this thing where like the best 4 third place teams make the bracket, but like one of these things where you have these, like, because they had like, there's 24 teams, there used to be 6 pools of 4, and now they're doing 4 pools of 6, and they go directly to brackets. Some people were upset because, of course, if you end up in a pool with a team like the Netherlands Open, who's seeded 20th, but actually was pretty good, and then you get screwed. Like Is No Good was a very good team. Is No Good and Wall City both got 9th and 10th, so they were I would say our pool was pretty tough. We had the weakest 1 seed, but after that we were the highest, like 3, 4, 5 seed, 2, 3, 4 seed. Sorry, so like those teams are Is No Good and Wall City might be better than some of the other teams that made quarters, but so that can screw you over, right, if the seeding doesn't go your way. But I don't like something always rubs me the wrong way. I think EUCF has done this sometimes too, where like all the first and second place teams make the bracket in a pool, and then like the best third place teams, which is based on record or point diff or something, it just sits wrong with me. I don't like that at all. So I'm glad Tom's got rid of that.
Why were Irish Open so bad? Did anyone see them, or they just went down to the bottom and nobody cared anymore?
They ended up getting.
They challenged 19. GB definitely in their game. They had the closest game with GB other than Moon, I believe, didn't they? So I think they were pretty good.
I didn't play them. I know they beat Jet Set, and there was a 3-way tie between them, Jet Set, and Denmark, I think, and they got the worst of that 3-way tie. So that ended up putting them in the bottom brackets. But then in the 17-24, they didn't win out either. They got 19th, so they did lose a game down in that bracket as well, losing to the Frizzly Bears from Aachen 15-12.
Wow.
So not a great showing for the Island Boys. I mean, we all know that Ireland is going into like the top players are all focused on mixed this year. So yeah, didn't go as well for them, I think.
I think they could still. I think they're very high variance. This team, a lot of gunslingers, a lot of athleticism, and like they could finish anywhere. Not anywhere that you see. They're not going to win it. They're not going to get semis, but like they could beat a good team. They can also lose to a bad team. I'm not just saying that because I'm Irish or whatever, but I just think that the style of players they have, like they could run a hooking game with Dean and some athletic receivers and dominate a game or turn it over every offensive point. You know, there's just...
Yeah. When they're fully concentrating, like they compete with GB, because I imagine they went into that game like, we are going to show them that we are as good as these lads. And they
Ireland always shows up for GB.
Exactly. They have that in the locker where they can compete with a team that's really good. But if they're playing against a team that's not as good, if that team is GB, they're playing against a team that's not as good and they don't think they have to concentrate, they have to try every time. They think they can throw some stuff that maybe they can't throw.
I think their pool at EUC is going to be very interesting. Them, Spain, and Israel. I can't remember the top seed is. I think the top seed is like Italy or someone that's going to win the pool. But those three could end up anywhere, I think, actually. I feel like Ireland's that high variance team, while Spain is probably kind of consistent and good players. And then like Israel, kind of the same. Like they've kind of have this like core standard, but no real superstars. I think nearly every time Ireland usually goes like crack addicts and stuff like that. Nearly every time I've went with them, we've ended up in the bottom of a 3-way tie at Tom's Tourney and gotten knocked out like day one, which is just the worst thing ever. So I'm glad that tradition is keeping up. And yeah, I don't know. We'll see how they get on.
Spain does have the German World Games player Sebastian Spiegel, who lives in the Canary Islands somewhere.
Yeah.
He's playing with them, so that's definitely a big talent that probably helped them drive their offense. He's an incredible player. He played really well at World Games, so I imagine that's helping him out pretty well.
That's cool. Yeah, I've seen him in the Canaries a bit. Yeah.
All right, that's it for Tom's. Anything else? Any other thoughts? I mean, otherwhere for other national teams. Denmark came 16th. I think that was pretty much it for the national teams. A lot more club teams coming to this one than national teams. Denmark, another team that I thought would probably be pretty good, but given how good KFK has been. But yeah, coming 16th in the end, losing out to a team like Freestyle, which is like a French pickup team. Who else did they lose to along the way? GB U24 Open, who I heard was not super great. So I think Denmark is really showing up to be I thought they were pretty good last cycle, but this time maybe I didn't have everybody here. I didn't get to see them play, so I don't know if any of you guys saw them. But aside from that, not much else to say about these results. All right, that brings us to this upcoming weekend, which there's two big tournaments, Vienna Spring Break and the Frankfurt Invite. I think we'll do Frankfurt Invite first. It's basically a round robin with what, for my money, are the top four mixed teams going to EUC. So it'll be France, Ireland, Germany, and GB. All extremely talented teams have somehow got themselves together. They're going to play a full round robin and then have a first place game and a third place game. So yeah, I won't go into too much. I mean, there's no format to talk about or whatever, but what are your thoughts, early thoughts and predictions for who you think is going to come out on top in this early round robin? We'll start with Sean.
Tough to say because we haven't seen any of them, but I know, as you said, there's some real talent. You look at Germany with Levka Volchak. I think it's likely they're going to have the best player on show there. Levka is extremely good, and when she's running at full capacity, it's extremely difficult to stop her. GB obviously have won every EUC mixed division there's been, but all three of these teams that they're going to be playing are excellent. So I think Germany probably going to have the upper hand being at home, but tough to tell who exactly is going to be able to compete with them. I think GB, I've seen GB train a couple of times. Again, I was at the final trial helping select the team, and they have a lot of talent. It's just gelling. It's just making sure that those people gel, because they've got some people from Open Women's, a couple of Clapham lads coming over, and Conor McHale and Josh Briggs, who played Open last time around. But they've got a very talented team, just as all four have. But I'd say I'd probably slightly edge towards Germany. They've got home advantage, which seems to really count going by Spring Invite.
All right, Liam, tell us about the Irish, because Sean didn't mention them at all there in his little recap.
They're pretty good at Frisbee. I picked them to win this division. I find this tournament almost weird. Like, it's really the hotly contested teams meeting together before the season, like running a mini EUC. Like, I guess they probably all know each other individually now, but like, do they play the tactics they want to play? Do they leave some cards up their sleeve? Do they just pull it out there and be like, hey, they're going to know us, we're going to know them, and just get on with it? I suppose it's not going to be streamed, is it? Is there anything, no stream of it? No. Yeah.
I'm sure
Something
some
really
teams will
good.
be having Veil cameras out there filming themselves, so if you know the right people, maybe you can get your hands on a game or two, but
Yeah.
no
Well,
official streams.
I guarantee the Irish are filming all the others for sure. Presumably their own matches, but we'll definitely be filming the opposition more so. They're
I see you
good.
leave cards up your sleeve. You leave cards up your sleeve, surely.
Yeah. And like all these players, like I think for the Irish, a lot of them would have got to the mixed final. Some of these players, Sarah Melvin, like played in the Euros final in 2015. Like there is some crossover there. I think Robbie Brennan. I think there's a few others, I'm sure. And then all of them would have played mixed because it's kind of normal in Ireland to play mixed and the single gender divisions. It's just like a thing, the way the season's split up. I think we find it quite easy to do that transition. It's predominantly Dublin based, not entirely. I think that everyone's used to playing with each other. I think they're going to be really good. I think they're going to be really, really good. I haven't seen them play together yet. I'm really looking forward to it. Like it's going to be interesting to see who's going to be like the primary cutters and dominating for them. Is it going to be the lads, or is it going to be the women, or a bit of both? Who's going to be? Yeah, it's almost too stacked. I don't know what's going to happen. This Irish team. I know Conor Hogan's not going to play much. That's all I know from that. That's a joke. Sorry, Hoagie. He'll be doing the filming. That's for sure.
I imagine that camera's going to get work at the weekend for sure.
Yeah. MVP for filming. So yeah, I've at the top of this mixed division and those teams, I have no idea. They're all so good, and I haven't seen them in these outfits before. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be this EUC, like as a tournament, is slightly disappointing in terms of it's not the biggest EUC and smaller than last year and the year before, mostly because Russia and Ukraine aren't there. But in positives, like I think the mixed division is the best it's ever been, and like it's the most competitive it's ever been.
Yeah,
and there's going to be some crazy games, and I think there's 4 or 5 teams who could win this, or the winning team could lose 2 games in the run up to winning it. It's wild, and it's a really, really high standard. I think highest standard has ever been in the mixed division, which is exciting.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned much about the French team, who I think has a mix of older and younger players, and it'll be curious to see how they all come together. But like, they definitely lost a few of the players that were on the last iteration that have aged out or retired or whatever. But they're bringing in people like guys like Malvin Schmidt, who was really, really good for their youth program. They're going to have Benjamin Fonriche, who's one of the best athletes they have in France. I think he's played open before. They have Nasser Vogel, who's going to be out there, still doing his thing. And then on the women's side, we see players like Coralie Fouquet, Eva Barnaud, Lison Barnaud, Pauline Berthet, a lot of the women that were on the World Games team who also had a really good outing there. But like Jeanne de la Vallée is not there now, and like a lot of the top women they had before aren't there. So it's kind of a new generation, but I think French youth has been very strong recently, so I think they'll still be up there with this level. I talked to somebody at Tom's and that said that maybe they expect French team not to do that well at this tournament, but probably do well later in the season. So they're still going to be building and putting their pieces together. So maybe we'll see something like that. But yeah, they got Sasha Potsakolski also, who's one of the fastest players in France. Played really well for Chalk this past weekend as well. So yeah, I think it's going to be a tough team as well. Definitely going to be out there competing with us. Maybe like slightly the underish dog, which is weird to say out of these 4 teams, but we'll definitely be competitive with all of them as well. Maybe, yeah, I don't know who I'd pick. I still think it's between Ireland and Germany as the top 2 that I see out here. And I think in my when I did the EUC pool preview, I picked I picked Germany to win that out. I do think I'm going to stick with them. I think they have a bit more just a bit more. I don't know what to say. There's something about them like just Leifka Waljak. Maybe they just have a bit more Leifka Waljak, and that's going to be the difference maker. Excited to see the probably Waljak Melvin matchup there.
Yeah,
I'm wondering are they going to end up playing against each other, or are they going to be on opposite O-lines? Or surely Levka, maybe not this tournament, but in a final, surely she'd cross
play
over.
Every point.
Yeah.
Play every point.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I wonder how, I don't think I've ever seen them play against each other.
Mm-hmm.
I think they've played with each other before. But
they were on Eurostars together or not.
Yeah, I feel like they might have been on
They both were Eurostars. I
together.
can't remember if they were the same year, but I think probably they were.
I think GB is actually, talent-wise, is maybe just as good as those two teams, Ireland and Germany. But those particular players have never convinced me they've maximized themselves in mixed ultimate. I know they won last time, but that mixed final was not that flowing from either side. Really good players, but it didn't really feel like they were smooth mixed ultimate.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel that from the World's Game team really either. Felt it from the France World Games team actually, and Germany, and I think Ireland. I've seen it before as well. I think for GB, it's can they find a rhythm in playing mixed ultimate? I think that's the challenge for them. I think they can win individual matchups. I think they can throw. They can do all the skill level is there. Is just maximizing the mixed skills is the challenge for them. Not to look too much into UC, but there's a bizarre thing in UC where a lot of the good mixed teams are on one side of the bracket, and essentially
and
France is
find themselves on the other side.
Yeah, I think Poland might not be the worst, but really realistically, France on one side will end up on one side of a power pool, while all the others will end up on the other side.
But that probably means France's bracket will be hard because France will probably have to get a tough team in quarters.
So they will
semis.
They will definitely get I was talking. People were annoyed. It's going to be a super strong power pool. And it's you will all avoid each other in quarters.
Yeah,
which is a good thing. While France is guaranteed a tough quarter, but it's going to be weird in that power pool then of how hard do they go? Do they wreck themselves? Obviously, winning the group there's an advantage there. I think Latvia ends up in that. I think Latvia again.
Dark horse pick.
Yeah, I think if it was a one-off final against any of these teams, they could beat them. I just think they're going to get too tired by the end of it. I think it's how do they balance their energy levels, and they could, they come fourth or even fifth. I think even fourth in that power pool would be fine for them. You know what I mean? They'd still get a pre-quarter. I think everyone gets a pre-quarter if you're in the upper power pools.
Yeah.
So I think fourth would be fine, and it's still
you want to avoid the quarter. Avoid the team that has to play France in quarters, whatever place that is.
I can't remember. I think it's fourth or third. I think just trying to choose where they burn themselves out is the question. You just don't want to get to the quarters and average effect,
I've never seen him tired.
He was tired against Clapham in that bronze medal game. He was.
That's a whole week though, and I suppose they're going to be playing against
the exact same situation if they end up in a semi-final. He was. He looked tired to me, and he's probably going to have to do more duty on this team than he was doing for the Mooncatchers. So interesting to see how they got on. I think they'll beat one of those big teams, one of those four teams. This time management and energy management is going to be the biggest challenge for them.
I think the one thing about France as well, you look at the World Games team, the main disc handlers are not on this mixed team. So I have no doubt they're going to have good disc handlers, but they're going to have people who can control the game like GB, Germany, and Ireland are going to have. Because you look at those teams, they've got people who've controlled games at the very highest level. But NAS is obviously brilliant, but then the thing you're looking at now with NAS is he going to be able to keep going for the whole game with the kind of pressure that's going to be put on him? There was definitely times last year with Is No Good where he looked great, but there was also times where you could tell that he's nearer the end of his career than he is to start. So I think that's the big thing for France.
Mm-hmm. All right, we'll have to see. Okay, picks real quick. So is it true that Liam's going Ireland and both Sean and I going Germany?
Sure.
Let's get the whole ranking guess. So I'm going to go Germany, Ireland, France. No, GB France. Germany, Ireland, GB France. Liam?
Ireland, Germany, GB, France.
Ireland,
Germany, GB, Ireland, France.
Germany, GB, Ireland, France. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Whoa.
Okay. All right. So let's go to Vienna spring break. We've been doing this podcast for a while, about an hour and a half, so we'll probably keep this pretty short. But yeah, a couple tournaments, a couple divisions here. In the open division, we've got 3SB, Schwaben, Alligators, Austria U24, BFD Red Bulls, Ketchup Graz, Fab, Fire of London, Frank, and Fui. So Fui and 3SB are splitting their team, not coming as one combined thing. That'll probably make them both a bit weaker. Forward from Austria, LOL from Hungary, Panthers Wrocław. Since there's Panthers Bern and Panthers Wrocław, now you have to be careful with the Panthers. The Terrible Monkeys from the Czech Republic, Prague, the Big Easy, and Uprising from Poland. So actually not the strongest group of teams here, especially because 3SB and Fui are split. I think if they were together, they would easily win this tournament. Given that they're split, I still think they might end up just making the final playing each other. I don't know what you guys think about this.
Yeah, I agree. It could be an all-Czech final. I don't know who's Fui and who's 3SB, to be honest with you, but
yeah,
there were a lot of good players in the Czech Republic, particularly around that program. So it wouldn't be a surprise there to see those two meet in the final.
Fab have a shout maybe of sneaking in there. Aside from them, I don't see too many other teams. I mean, Red Bulls depends who they bring. They did really badly at Tom's, but if they bring a totally different team, they might be incredibly good. So it's hard to say.
I have absolutely no idea what's happening at this tournament. I'm not afraid to say it. I'm a busy man. I would be, which I've done quite a lot in this podcast, is pull answers out of my arse and try to make something up. But I'm done doing that. I'm retiring from flaking my way through divisions I know nothing about. I'm just doing our Hell Toshner over on, and I'm just accepting that I don't know this and just stating that rather than pretending to know, which I do predominantly. So I've just not been paying enough attention to anything that's not EUC related this year, and I'd be doing a disservice to broadcasting if I was to pretend more than I usually do.
All right, so the women's division, we have 3SB as well, Austria U24, Box, Ketchup Women, Chicas from Munich, East Bloc from the Czech Republic, Mantis from Austria, the Swiss national team, Scram, Sick from the UK, both teams, Troubles from Warsaw, and Zurich Ultimate without their Swiss national players, I'm guessing, coming out there as a third team. Looking at this, I would say it's probably pretty clearly going to be a 3SB Swiss national team final. And yeah, depending if 3SB comes full strength, I think I might actually favor them to take it over the Swiss. I think I can't really see any other team from here challenging those two at the top.
East Bloc have been good so far this season. I think they've got a shot, but I agree, those two seem to stand out. It's going to be interesting to see. I think some of this is going to be streamed, so it's going to be interesting to see what we get out of the Swiss, who obviously were good last time around at EUC, had a really good tournament last time. So it'd be fun to see what they look like. But yeah, 3SB have had a good season. The Czech women are very strong, so I would expect them to at least compete and with the Swiss.
All right, and Liam has no thoughts, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'm sticking with my earlier statement.
Okay, that'll do it for this episode of Eurozone. So yeah, like I said, probably not going to be here for the next few episodes. Sean, I think you're going to try and do it more regularly than we've done it before, so that would be a good change of pace.
Give it a go.
We'll see if you can pull that off.
I've got a topic for the subscribers only section.
All right, what can our subscribers expect to hear?
Me and Felix had there was actually John Dock and other people had a heated debate in the open final at Tom's about pickups in general. I guess it was pointed a lot towards against Mooncatchers and Bologna and the ideology of it in general. What do we think? How many is allowed? Is there circumstances where it's acceptable? I have some thrashing out to do.